Hello lovelies, in this video we're going to go through the circulatory system for your GCSE biology. So all the different parts involved, the names of all the different parts involved, and then how everything circulates around the body, the path that the blood takes. It is really important that you pay attention to your diagrams, the orientation of your diagrams in this topic, so that in the exam you don't get confused and label things wrongly.
The circulatory system. Now this is something that we've already talked about when we looked at surface area to volume ratio at the start of this topic, but it explains why organisms need transport systems, because they have a low surface area to volume ratio, which means they can't rely on diffusion through their skin to all of their cells and tissues. It would not be able to supply all of the cells with all the substances they need or to remove all the waste substances. Okay, so let's look at some of the things that the blood transports, or the circulatory system transports. So obviously oxygen and carbon dioxide are gases from the lungs. All the products absorbed from digestion, so the amino acids, the fatty acids and glycerol, the glucose, all of these will be transported from the small intestine to every cell in the body, where they'll then use them and build new molecules with them or use them for respiration. Hormones, which are obviously really important and are produced by some organs in the body but need to be sent to other organs in the body to have an action done. Antibodies and your white blood cells, so all of your white blood cells and the antibodies that they produce as part of your immune response, they travel in the blood. And then obviously all of your urea and other waste products that we need to get rid of. So let's look a little bit more closely at the human circulatory system. It consists of the heart and the blood vessels. The human circulatory system is a closed system because all the blood is contained in blood vessels. It doesn't just float around your body. It has to be travelled around and pushed around inside the tubes that are the blood vessels. Our system is also described as a double circulatory system. This is because blood flows through the heart twice. It goes once to the lungs and back to the heart again, and then it goes back out around the body and then back to the heart again. So there are two circuits. One of them we call the pulmonary circuit, which is where blood goes to and from the lungs. Pulmonary, that word is always associated with the lungs. And then we have the systemic, or the body circuit. And this is obviously where blood is pumped to the rest of the body. And this is at higher pressure because it has to go further compared to just from the heart to the lungs. Let's have a look at the blood vessel system then. So arteries carry blood from the heart, so blood that's moving away from the heart. As they move further away from the heart, they branch into smaller blood vessels called arterioles, which are slightly smaller arteries, and they form a network of branches that then take the blood closer to the tissues. Obviously in arteries, if we're coming from the heart, then they will be carrying mostly oxygenated blood to all of the organs in the body. Oxygenated blood then flows from arterioles into capillaries. So arterioles branch further and they get narrower and join into capillaries. And these form networks in tissues, so within tissues right up next to cells, and we call these capillary beds. There's lowest pressure here as well, just to think about the fact that arteries obviously had high pressure and now we're dropping right down to the lowest pressure because we need to make sure that the capillaries don't burst because they've got very thin walls. So we want to slow the blood flow right down. We're going to the lowest pressure just so that blood can move slowly so we can get all of that exchange happening between the capillaries and the cells. So all the substances that we need to exchange will happen. Oxygen and glucose are going to diffuse from the blood into cells. And then any carbon dioxide or urea those cells have will diffuse back into the blood from the cells and then it'll be taken away. And so this is what happens in these capillary beds. Obviously then now we're looking at deoxygenated blood, so we're going to go and look at veins. So veins carry blood back to the heart. So once the exchange has happened, so our oxygen has diffused into our cells, our carbon dioxide has diffused out of our cells, and same with nutrients and waste products, then the deoxygenated blood is going to flow into venules. So capillaries sort of branch into and turn into venules. Just like arterioles, venules are small, narrower veins. All of these then join up and join together to form larger veins, and they transport blood back to the heart. Obviously, the last thing I'll say, because we're going to see a lot of diagrams that look like this all through this circulatory system topic, but if you see diagrams like this with red and blue, just so you know, deoxygenated blood is not blue. There is never any blue blood in your body. It can't be, because we know our red blood cells are red, and they are always red. They can be brighter red when they have oxygen bound to it, and a slightly darker, more purpley red when they don't have oxygen bound to them. But at no point is your blood blue in your veins, just to clarify. Let's have a look at comparing the structure and function of arteries and veins. As we've already said, the function of arteries is to carry blood away from the heart. This is how I remember. Away begins with an A, artery begins with an A. That's how we always remember which way around it is, and veins carry blood towards the heart. In terms of the structure of arteries and how it allows to carry out this function, it has a thicker smooth muscle layer to withstand the high blood pressure, and a thicker elastic layer to help the vessel stretch and recoil back into shape. This helps to maintain the high blood pressure. So these here are two structures, the thick muscle layer and the thick elastic layer, and how it helps it to carry out the artery's function. So to withstand the high pressure and to maintain the high blood pressure. In terms of the vein, the layers of the muscle and elastic are thinner because the blood is at a lower pressure. So because there isn't a high pressure here, there's less stretch and recoil, and there's not a high pressure that they have to withstand. Veins, though, have valves which are unique to them, and they prevent the backflow of blood due to low pressure and gravity. The lumen, so that is the hole in the centre of this tube or vessel, it's very narrow in the arteries, less than 18 millimetres, and this is to help maintain that high blood pressure as well. The veins have a much wider lumen, less than 30 millimetres than the arteries, and that allows for a greater volume of blood to pass through them, and also it's not at high pressure, so we're not having to maintain a high pressure in it. Let's look at the structure and function of capillaries. So the function of capillaries really is that they are the site of substance exchange with the cells. They are the smallest blood vessels with the narrowest diameter, and this is because the diameter needs to be the same width as one red blood cell, which is about 5 micrometers. This slows the blood flow because the red blood cells are then going in single file and they are squeezed against the walls of the capillaries. This is helpful because it actually reduces the flow of blood, so it slows the flow of blood down, so it increases the time taken for diffusion to occur between the red blood cells and the tissue fluid. And because diffusion is happening, we know that obviously capillaries here have this adaptation that the endothelium walls are only one cell thick, and that is there to create a short diffusion distance for substances into and out of the blood. And this obviously means that the substance can easily diffuse between the cells and the red blood cells or cells in the blood plasma. So for each blood vessel, you need to be able to talk about their structure and their function. So what is their structure like? You need to be able to recognise diagrams of them. You need to be able to say what structures does it have in terms of their muscle wall, the elastic, whether it has valves. And then you need to be able to use your knowledge to explain why each blood vessel needs those adaptations or those structures.
Ouch! This is why in some videos I'll explain scratches.